HMS Fearless was an F-class destroyer built for the Royal Navy during the 1930s. Although assigned to the Home Fleet upon completion, the ship was attached to the Mediterranean Fleet in 1935–36 during the Abyssinia crisis. During the Spanish Civil War of 1936–1939, she spent time in Spanish waters, enforcing the arms blockade imposed by Britain and France on both sides of the conflict. Several months after the start of the war in September 1939, Fearless helped to sink one submarine and sank another one in 1940 during the Norwegian Campaign. She was sent to Gibraltar in mid-1940 and formed part of Force H, where she participated in the attack on the Vichy French ships at Mers el-Bir and the bombardment of Genoa. Fearless helped to sink one final submarine in 1941 and escorted many Malta convoys in the Mediterranean before she was torpedoed by an Italian bomber and had to be scuttled on 23 July 1941. Description: the F-class ships were repeats of the preceding E-class. They displaced 1,405 long tons at standard load and 1,940 long tons at deep load. The ships had an overall length of 329 feet, a beam of 33 feet 3 inches and a draft of 12 feet 6 inches. They were powered by two Parsons-geared steam turbines, each driving one propeller shaft, using steam provided by three Admiralty 3-drum boilers. The turbines developed a total of 36,000 shaft horsepower and gave a maximum speed of 35.5 knots. Fearless carried a maximum of 470 long tons of fuel oil that gave her range of 6,350 nautical miles at 15 knots. The ship's complement was 145 officers and ratings. The ships mounted four 4.7-inch Mark 9 guns in single mounts, designated A, B, X, and Y in sequence from front to rear. For anti-aircraft defense, they had two quadruple Mark 1 mounts for the 0.5-inch Vickers Mark 3 machine gun. The F-class was fitted with two above-water quadruple torpedo tube mounts for 21-inch torpedoes. One depth charge rack and two throwers were fitted. 20 depth charges were originally carried, but this increased to 38 shortly after the war began. All of her sister ships had the rear torpedo tubes replaced by a 12-pounder AA gun by April 1941, but she still had both sets of torpedo tube by that date and was probably not rearmed before her loss a few months later. Construction and career. Fearless was ordered on 17 March 1933 from Camel Lead and was laid down at the Birkenhead shipyard on 17 July, launched on 12 May 1934, and completed on 19 December 1934. The ship cost £245,728, excluding government-furnished equipment like the armament. Fearless was initially assigned to the 6th Destroyer Flotilla of the Home Fleet, but she was detached to reinforce the Mediterranean Fleet during the Second Italo-Abyssinian War from March to July 1936. The ship enforced the arms embargo imposed on both sides in the Spanish Civil War by the Non-Intervention Committee from November 1936 to March 1937. During this time, Fearless escorted the elderly liner SS Habana, full of refugee children, from the Basque Country to Saint-Jean-de-Luz, France. She returned to Gibraltar for 3-month detachments in August 1937, January 1938 and January 1939. The 6th DF was renumbered the 8th Destroyer Flotilla in April 1939, 5 months before the outbreak of World War II. Fearless remained assigned to it until May 1940, escorting the largest ships of the fleet. After a pair of fishing trawlers were sunk by a submarine off the Hebrides after the start of World War II in September 1939, the 6th and 8th DFs were ordered to sweep the area on the 19th of September. The following day, Fearless and 3 of her sister ships sank the German submarine U-27 and then resumed the normal escort duties. At the end of March 1940, Fearless and the destroyer Hostile were assigned to screen the light cruiser Birmingham as she searched for German fishing ships off the Norwegian coast. Birmingham and her consorts were ordered to join the covering force for Operation Wilfred, an operation to lay mines in the Vestfjord to prevent the transport of Swedish iron ore from Narvik to Germany on the evening of the 7th of April, but they were delayed by the need to transfer prize crews to several captured trawlers and head seas. A week later, she was escorting the battleship Valiant, which was covering convoy NP-1, the first troop convoy to Norway, as the Allies began to execute Plan R4 after the German invasion on the 9th of April. The convoy entered the Andfjorden on the morning of the 15th of April en route to make the landings at Harstad, but paused there after reports of a German submarine on the surface inside the Vagsfjorden were received. Fearless, the destroyer Brazen, and the trawler Amethyst were ordered into the Vagsfjorden to investigate. Fearless's Aztec found a submarine and the ship dropped 5 depth charges near U-49. The submarine commander, Lieutenant Kurt von Goslar, panicked and ordered his crew to surface and scuttle the boat. Machine gun fire from Fearless discouraged von Goslar from properly disposing of his secret documents, and a boat from Brazen was able to retrieve many of them, including a map showing the location of all U-boats in Norwegian waters. Valiant, Fearless, Brazen and the destroyer Griffin were ordered to return to Scapa Flow that evening. Beginning on the 23rd of April, the ship was one of the escorts for the aircraft carriers Ark Royal and Glorious as they conducted air operations off the coast of Norway in support of Allied operations ashore. Fearless was detached to refuel at Sullomvo on the 28th and rejoined the screen 2 days later. The ship was under repair from the 15th of May to the 10th of June at Middlesbrough. A week later, she was escorting the battlecruiser Hood and Ark Royal, together with her sisters Faulkner and Foxhound and the destroyer Escapade, from Scapa Flow to Gibraltar, where they would form Force H. On the 3rd of July she took part in the attack on the French fleet at Mers-el-Kut-Bir. A month later the ship escorted Force H during Operation Hurry, a mission to fly off fighter aircraft for Malta and conduct an airstrike on Cagliari on the 2nd of August. 2 days later, while returning to the UK, Fearless collided with the trawler Flying Wing and was repaired at the Barclaycale shipyard in Scotstoun between the 10th of August and the 11th of October. On the 30th of October she was involved in another collision with SS Lanark at Greenock that fractured her stern. More repairs followed at Troon, and Fearless did not rejoin Force H at Gibraltar until the 18th of January 1941. On the 31st of January, Force H departed Gibraltar to carry out Operation Picket, an unsuccessful night torpedo attack by 8 of Ark Royal's Fairy Swordfish on the Tirso Dam in Sardinia. The British ships returned to Gibraltar on the 4th of February and began preparing for Operation Grog, a naval bombardment of Genoa, that was successfully carried out 5 days later. At the end of March, together with the light cruiser HMS Sheffield and 3 other destroyers, the ship attempted to intercept a Vichy French convoy that included the freighter SS Bangkok, supposedly laden with 3,000 metric tons of rubber, which had already been unloaded. Fearless was ordered to board and capture Bangkok, but she was thwarted by gunfire from a coast defense battery off the port of Nemours, Algeria. A few days later, Fearless and 4 other destroyers escorted Sheffield, the battlecruiser Renan, and Ark Royal in Operation Winch, which delivered 12 Hurricane fighters to Malta. In early May she was part of the destroyer screen with 5 other destroyers for the battleship Queen Elizabeth and the light cruisers Naiad, Fiji and Gloucester, which were joining the Mediterranean fleet. This was part of Operation Tiger, which included a supply convoy taking tanks to the Middle East and the transfer of warships. Fearless and her sisters had the 2-speed destroyer sweep minesweeping gear rigged to allow them to serve as a fast minesweepers en route to Malta. Despite this, 1 merchant ship was sunk by mines and another damaged. The ship escorted another flying-off mission to Malta on the 14th of June, 2 days later, after German blockade runners reached France. Force H sorted into the Atlantic on a failed search for more blockade runners. Together with her sisters Faulkner, Foresight, Forrester and Foxhound, Fearless helped to sink U-138 on the 18th of June. 4 days later, the 8th DF was tasked to intercept a German supply ship spotted heading towards the French coast. The next day they intercepted MS Ulsterta, which was scuttled by her crew upon the approach of the British ships. They rescued 78 British POWs taken from ships sunk by German raiders and the crew. Another Malta convoy was conducted in mid-July, heavily escorted by Force H and elements of the Home Fleet. Fearless was torpedoed by an Italian Savoia Marchetti Ed M79 bomber at 9:45 on the 23rd of July. The detonation killed 27 and wounded 11 of her crew, set the aft oil tank on fire, and knocked out all power and the port propeller shaft. Forrester closed to render assistance, but the ship could not be saved under the circumstances. Her crew were taken off by her sister ship, which then sank the wrecked and burning ship with torpedoes at 10:57. About 50 nmi north-northeast of Bone, Algeria, in position 37.667 degrees north, 8.333 degrees east, 37.667, 8.333. Lastly, fleet. Could Admiral Gensoul have averted the tragedy of Mers El Kabir? Journal of Military History 67 No. 3 pp 835–844 online.